Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1, action.
Assume nothing.
Brash, bald-faced blasphemy.
Question everything.
I find it extremely hard to imagine.
Open your eyes.
It is quite all right to be an atheist.
The fastest growing group of people in the country has been measured as being those who have no belief or who are atheists.
You don't have to be apologetic or quiet about it.
Challenge the opposition.
You see religion on 100 fronts losing the argument.
And start thinking. This is The Thinking Atheist Worldwide.
For the very first time since we started this podcast, we're going to do a show that's about anything other than atheism. Now, we'll see if we can get away with that. It seems to be a reflex, even with me. A topic will come up, and it'll have to do with religion, and all of a sudden you go off on that trail, and then the calls come in and whatnot. But I was ready for a change. You know, it's been a while, and I enjoy doing battle with my former faith, and I feel like it's an important thing to go do head-to-head battle with superstition out there. And I think we've done a lot of good. But from time to time, I just think to myself, I'd like a little variety. I'm ready for a little bit of something different. It's the season of the holidays. It is kind of a good excuse to talk about something else. If you are here or came here hoping to get into a deep philosophical or theological discussion, this may not be your show. And, and I totally get that. I understand this may not be your show. However, if you want to talk about something else, and this is your cup of tea, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I appreciate it very, very much. I have been out most of the afternoon shopping for a Christmas present for a 15-year-old girl. And if there is a hell, that's pretty damn close. Natalie's daughter is she's precious. I just love her to death. And, we've been a family for years. And in the past, I've gotten off the hook pretty easy. Oh, yeah, she needs some speakers for her iPad or iPhone or whatever that thing is. And this will be a good gift. Oh, we'll get her, let's get her a picture frame. She wants this favorite pictures of hers. This year, I got nothing. I'm walking around the mall and I'm looking at, have you ever walked into a clothing store for like teenagers? I mean, I thought to myself, I cannot even fathom what to buy. All I see is accessories that are they supposed to match? They don't match? What? How much does it cost? Will they like it? Will they not? No, that's not going to work. It's not my scene. I'm a pilgrim in a strange land. I'm good with practical gifts. Look, you can use this for years. Well, you know what most teenagers are not interested in? Practical gifts. When I talk like this, I feel like I sound like I'm getting older, right? I sound like I'm turning into my parents. This is something I'm very conscious of. I actually asked a friend of mine, I said, look, if you are self-aware and you're getting older, right, and you're aware that it's happening, you're seeing the transformation slowly take place, can you prevent turning into kind of a wacky old person? And you know what I'm talking about, right? We're children, then we become adults, and then as we age, quite often we become children again. Don't we? Many do become children again. You talk to them like a child. Oh no, and let me take that. Let me take that right away from you right now. You're going to hurt yourself. Don't overdo. And you're making the decisions. They can't drive. They can't. Is it like a regression? And how do I prevent that? Can I be self-aware enough so that when I get old, because when I get old, I just want to be like fun. I want to be one of those guys who's fun to be around. I don't want to be one of those people who, if I call someone on the phone, their mouth drops to the floor and they go, oh. Look, here's how a conversation stream might run with somebody who, this is obviously a broad generalization, but most of us know someone in our life who fits this description, right? When it comes to the conversation tree, Some people are like a lightning bolt. It's cloud to ground lightning. Bam. They immediately get to the point. You know exactly why they called. Then there are other people on the family tree who call you, and they take every streamer on the way down. Whatever the point was, it doesn't matter. They're way off the beaten path. Something like, your mom calls, "Hey, baby, just calling to check on you. How you feeling? You feeling okay these days? Well, I hadn't talked to you. Your father's been sick. Yeah, your father's had the flu. But that reminds me, your sister flew to Florida last week. Yeah, they're on vacation. It's hurricane season down there. Yeah. By the way, speaking of hurricanes, did you see that show on the Weather Channel? It's about global warming. Yeah, it was really interesting. Yeah, really. By the way, it has been warm in this house. I told you, Father, that thermostat's got to be broken. And speaking of broken, we've got a neighbor down the street. He's got a broken down car, and he was going to put it on eBay. Do you use eBay? I tried. I tried to put some antiques out there on eBay. That reminds me, we've got some antiques up in the attic. Do you have an attic in your house? The housing market's just been terrible. And this economy, just been terrible. How's the economy affected your Christmas shopping? I don't shop much anymore. I tried to sell some stuff on eBay. Yeah, some antiques. Yeah, just over and over again, you find yourself, you're answering the same questions. I have found myself putting my phone on speaker. I put it on the countertop, and I do other work. And about every 7 or 8 minutes, I go, yeah. 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 Yep. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. How do I prevent this happening to me? Is it unavoidable that it's going to happen to me? My mouth just drops to the floor. Oh, my God. Get to the point. Oh, maybe it's a personality flaw on my side. All she wants to do is have a conversation, just talk, and I get that. I understand. It's a lot of it's just about time and attention, right? And you want to give that. But my personality type is really a type A personality. I want to get to the point. Let's go. Let's get there. What else do you need? Oh, we got a problem? Let's fix it. Let's not spend an hour and a half dwelling on it. Let's just fix it. And so whenever we go off on all those little streamers off that lightning bolt, I find myself, the drool's coming out of my mouth, and I find myself just about to have a little hissy fit. I used to be afraid of getting older. I don't welcome getting old, but I kind of get it. It's going to happen. Let's make the most of it. Do what you can. Carpe diem. Maximize every moment. Live your life so you don't look back with regrets and say, I wish I would have. And it's sort of a liberating feeling to be able to say, look, I'm going to apologize less when I, for saying what's on my mind. And I'm going to apologize more when I feel like I've wronged someone in some way. And I'm going to try to rack up as many life experiences as I can. And the people in my life I cherish, I'm never going to let a day go by where I don't let them know that they are absolutely precious to me. I know you're probably snickering at me, but that's exactly how I feel. I'm amazed at the amount of words that go unsaid between people. I'm amazed at how often, even in my own life, I've had a chance to say the words of healing to someone and I just didn't. I'll get around to it. I'll call them sometime. And I think you just never know. Why let the sun go down? And that kind of thing. And I've done a lot more of that lately. I'm excited about 2013 with so much on the agenda. A lot of conferences and conventions. They are atheism related, so I'm not going to get heavily into them here, but they are coming up and we'll talk about them. And I've already started to schedule the first few podcasts for the month of January. We are going to do a show on gay and atheist, and we're going to talk about unskeptical skeptics or unskeptical atheism. And then I'm going to do a show a little later on where we talk about contemporary Christian music. A lot of folks asked me about what it was like in the business. I wrote about it in the book, but a lot of folks just like me to talk about what it was like to be there with the artist and whatnot. And we'll do a show on that. And then finally, I'm thinking I'm going to do a show that might help the striving, the just starting out YouTuber or podcaster. Now, this will just be one guy's opinion, so you can take it or leave it. You put 50 cooks in the kitchen and ask them how to make something, and you're going to get 50 different answers. You'll have to just take whatever I say with a grain of salt. But I see enough challenges out there when it comes to just technical issues, storytelling issues, some of the basics to help people to do what they do a little bit better. Because when I look out and see much of the video production that is happening, not just in free thought circles, but everywhere, I find myself yelling at the monitor. Light your subject. Put a mic on that subject, for Pete's sake. Your camera's 20 feet away. White balance your camera. Be prepared. Do this, do that. Yeah. So I thought about doing like just a show where I might even take some, I don't know, it'd be kind of a niche thing, but to do a show where maybe some technical tips on how to better compete in the suffocating world of YouTube users, and everybody's posting and pitching something. How do you maximize whatever content you have? And maybe that will help someone. Maybe it won't. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see what you want to talk about. My first call is 202. You're on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. Who's this?
Hello, this is Giannis.
What do you think, man?
Well, this is my first time calling. I've been listening to the show for a while. Want to say big influence on me.
Thank you.
Since this is just a free-for-all, I wanted to know, what's your opinion of the music nowadays?
You're talking to somebody who doesn't even know what's on the Billboard Top 20. Look, and this will have, how old are you, man?
I'm 18.
Look, this is what's going to happen, all right? You're going to blink and you're going to be, I don't know, 40. There are two thoughts about this. First of all, I have found that the music, they call it the soundtrack of your life. The songs we grow up with quite often are the songs that we cherish the most as we get a little older. And even now I find myself cruising down the street and Journey, Kansas Sticks, Boston come on the radio and I'm cranking it up. I have no idea. What, Katy Perry? What? Who's that? You know?
I can actually relate because, like, I'm the odd one out in school because, like, most of the music I listen to, which is like heavy metal from 1980s. So, like, the stuff that comes on the radio nowadays, I'm like, I either just despise it out of principle or I really don't know what it is.
There's a lot about the 80s that I should just apologize for. I would like to apologize for much of the 80s as far as a lot of the music. But at the same time, I can be driving down the street and Mr.'s Kyrie will come on the radio. And if I have a cigarette lighter on me, I would hold it in the air and woo! You know, just one of those things. I don't know. There's some good stuff out there. I myself don't really follow it. I did music radio for so long, and I'm such a fan of like talk formats. I listen to a lot of talk and podcasting and books on not on tape, but like audio books and whatnot, that I honestly don't listen to a whole lot of music these days. So you even harken back to some of the classics, even at the age of 18.
Oh, yeah. Like, even before I became a major metalhead, I would listen to classic rock like The Who, Leonard Skinner, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple.
Yeah.
Any of the classic stuff, I was into that. And then I found some Iron Maiden records, and that was it. I became a major metalhead.
That was all the stuff that they used to play for us in school. Then they'd play it backwards, and they'd talk about how it was the reason for all of society's ills, right? The devil is bleeding through the grooves in the record. These are satanic messages. We are contaminating a generation. This is where evil comes from, blah, blah, blah. And, of course,
that's actually what got me more interested in heavy metal, because, like, I was already an atheist by the time I started listening. So then when I read about the whole, because I was a pretty immature atheist at the time, so I was like, people thought this was satanic. I want to listen to more of this stuff.
Yeah. When I was a kid, Ozzy Osbourne might as well have been the devil. This was right after he did the thing where he bit the head off of the bat on stage as part of a stunt.
When his hair was frosted at the time.
Yeah. It was Ozzy Osbourne is the devil. And, of course, they're brilliant marketers. Rock and roll music wants to be controversial. It sells albums, right? The more pissed off you get parents, the more albums you're probably going to sell. So back then, Ozzy Osbourne was this sinister presence, this guy who was tainted, an agent of Beelzebub. And, I mean, look at Ozzy now. He's a teddy bear. He's the kind of guy he's like grandpa. And it's that way with all of those guys, all of those supposedly evil rockers from back then. Now they just seem like these happy Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper was the devil when I was in school. Now he seems like the kind of guy that you just want to go out and play golf with, and you could.
Isn't he? The last time I think he's a born-again Christian.
I've heard he's a minister. I don't really know. I do know that the Alice Cooper thing is, he comes right out and says it. It's an act. Alice Cooper is Alice Cooper. When I'm on stage, it's all performance, it's all show. And then the real Alice Cooper is this thoughtful, introspective, funny, really intelligent guy, the kind of guy that if he had his own talk show, I'd want to watch it. And of course, when you're vilifying people as young people, oh, it's Alice Cooper, he's the devil, he does all these horrible things. Gene Simmons from Kiss is out there with his forked tongue. Kiss, he's spitting blood on the audience. They used to tell us that KISS stood for Knights in Satan's Service.
Yeah, I've heard that line too. To me, I like Gene Simmons as a person, but to me, KISS is after they went disco and started marketing literally any household item you can think of. That kind of turns me off.
Well, KISS is Gene Simmons is a brilliant marketer. I think they are some of the least musical musicians I've seen on. Image for them, if they didn't have the image, nobody would listen to KISS, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. I think the minute that you can market your band's image onto a casket, you've done it all.
They've got KISS everything. They've got mini KISS. They've got little people out there dressed up as KISS doing concerts all around the country. It's awesome. And, Gene Simmons is another guy that back when I was growing up, he was the devil. And the truth is that he's just a guy, and he seems like a genuinely good man. He's a family guy. He's a successful businessman who built his empire from scratch, and I respect him tremendously. So I don't know. It's just funny to think about all the things we were freaked out about when I was a kid that today just seem absolutely benign. They just seem absolutely harmless almost.
Did you ever buy into the whole rock music and no music is convincing kids to commit suicide or commit murders?
No. I think people are always looking for a scapegoat. And I don't think that we shouldn't be really sensitive, even hypersensitive to the real environmental issues that affect behavior. But you stop and think about how prolific even the most hardcore rock bands were in the 80s, 90s. Think about how hardcore they are today and how many millions of those albums and songs are purchased and played repeatedly. Just like video games. They used to say that video games were the cause of all the world's ills, right? Because it puts a gun in the hands of a child and all these things. But the truth of it is, if that was absolutely the case, and the video game industry is actually now more lucrative than the motion picture industry, which is saying something. If that was absolutely true, there'd be blood in the streets. It would be pandemonium. It'd be Escape from New York the minute you walked out your door. There's something else going on. There's certainly environmental concerns to be aware of, but people love a scapegoat. People love to blame society for individual problems. And I don't think you can ignore the individual. I think you have to go into their mind and find out where the breakdown took place and get specific. But I don't think it's an indictment of all of society when a rogue goes rogue. I got to move on. Thanks for the call, man, very much.
Thanks.
Take care of yourself. 513, you're on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. Who's this?
This is Mario.
Mario, glad you called. What's going on in your world? We're doing a sort of a kitchen sink today. We're talking about everything but atheism.
Yeah, I got you. Here I got two off topics for you.
Yeah.
The first off topic is actually what you started talking about. It's interesting. When you were given that little hypothetical phone call and you rambled on, remember that?
Yeah.
That reminded me of my wife. Yeah. And
if your wife, are you doing that? Are you doing the mouth drop to the floor and you're like not bobbing your head while she's talking? Because that's just not a good sign if that's what's happening.
Well, it's tough to follow because every turn of the web, every node on this web is like another pain. It's like, oh, no, you're getting far away. You're getting further away. Come back.
Part of you is like, there is a point here, right? There was a reason that you called me, right? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. Well, no, here's the point. That kind of conversation, they say, is typical of a female. All right? I've heard it very often, how they... but...
I don't buy that. I think it's... I'm sorry, go ahead. I'll let you finish your point. Forgive me.
The reason I mentioned that, if it's the case, I just finished reading this book called The Male Brain, and the woman that wrote that also wrote a book called The Female Brain, and it's basically about the physiological and the anatomical differences in male and female. Well, one thing she said about a man who gets older actually starts to become physically more feminine, mainly because, your testosterone starts to go down.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And what I'm trying to tell you is that you're going to get the feminine side of you is going to come out as you get older.
Yeah.
And you're going to be talking. You're going to be talking just like that.
Just one day, I'm just one day going to be an old geezer sitting around. Doggone it! Get off my lawn, you little son of a bitch! That's exactly what it's going to be like when I get to be 70 years old. You know what though? I want to be that guy who the grandkids, everybody wants to come over and hang with him just because he's awesome, because he's funny. And
fun, yeah.
I don't want to be kind of out of it and not know what I'm doing and be useless. That's my worst fear about getting older is uselessness. Is what happens if I retire and I'm tucked in a corner somewhere and I am able to contribute nothing. That to me is one of my worst case scenarios. It terrifies me. I want to be useful for the rest of my life. I don't know. How do you approach getting older?
Well, I found that hanging around younger kids is really helpful. I mean, really young kids, like 3, 4, 5 years old, because they just bring out the little kid in you. I've got a 5-year-old grandson, and when he comes over, man, he and I are rolling on the carpet and we're getting into stuff.
Yeah.
I'm 58, so I'm older than you, but I'm knocking on the door.
Well, you have at that age, I think we have a lot in common with the kids. We're probably both in diapers and we're both probably on the bottle. So it's just one of those things.
That's right. And I think the less stuck on self-importance, that's a big thing. Stay on the light side. So the other topic, what are your thoughts on what happened Friday morning?
I don't think any of us can really process the tragedy in Connecticut. I was talking to Natalie about it, and I tried to force myself to picture in my mind the moment that someone violently shot 20 kindergartners, to try to just try to process in some way the horror of that. And I just couldn't. I mean, even trying to see it in my mind, it's like it just seems unfathomable. I saw the speech by President Obama. I had two thoughts on it, and they almost contradict each other. The first one is that I do appreciate his leadership. I feel like that the nation needed comfort, and I felt like he came in to show real leadership, which I think has often been lacking with Obama. He seems to do his own thing, his own way, and he doesn't really give a shit. But I felt like at this measure, when people were looking for words of comfort, he came through, and he provided an anchor. What I was upset about was that so much of his speech integrated the trite religious phrases that we have been seeing proliferated on Facebook. God called them home.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, you know what? I'm glad you brought it up. I actually I thought this might come up, and I printed part of his speech. In his speech, he said, "Scripture tells us do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." Now, of course, I addressed this many times, but I'm sorry. Light and momentary troubles? And then let the little children come to me, he said. Jesus said, don't hinder them because they belong to the kingdom of heaven. So essentially, he's communicating words of comfort. And I understand comfort. I get that. I understand what he's trying to do. But it's an insult to the intelligence, and I think to innate human goodness, to assert that this was God's mechanism for bringing these children into heaven. I don't think there's any way to calm or balm or to heal these people who have been through this. I don't think there's any platitude you can give. There's no scripture you can quote outside of genuinely being there for them if they have a need and letting them know you love them. Outside of that, I don't know how a parent can recover from this. I certainly don't think scripture is the key.
I agree with what you said. I had a 6-year-old sister way back when I was in high school who was killed in an accident, and I saw what my mother went through, and she virtually never recovered. I mean, she wore a necklace with a little picture of Janie. Yeah. She was burned in an accident, but she just never recovered. And I've been through, as a brother, as a big brother, it affected me just profoundly. It's so I can't even fathom.
I mean, you want to do what you can. You want to say what you can. You grope for, how can I do something? There was a fundraiser online that was, I think, put together by We Are Atheism, or Atheists Giving Aid. I think we're working in collaboration to try to raise money to offset funeral expenses, which is something that's uncomfortable to talk about. But on top of the emotional turmoil they're going through now, they have the logistical issues of putting together and paying for a funeral. And we all know that funerals do not come free or even cheap. And so that was a gesture of kindness. We live in a cause and effect world where I think we are at our best when we address human problems with human solutions. And I'd never want to take away those words of comfort, even the ones regarding God and heaven. I'd never want to take that away from those parents. But as a third-party spectator, I just felt honestly that I wish it had been handled a little bit differently. Well,
the other thing that it sounds maybe a little bit cold, but it does distract from. For example, you remember back at Virginia Tech when the fellow shot up the students?
Yeah.
Well, I went back, when I heard about this, I went back and reviewed some of the material I had saved from that. It's amazing, the psychological profile, how similar they are. This ought to dawn on people that, we need to pay attention when we see these characteristics in a young man. In other words, there's a real brain chemistry that's going on here. It's not this woo-woo spiritual battle.
It's not demon possession and God's punishment.
Yes, exactly.
I think when I saw the pastors and Mike Huckabee and their ilk essentially saying that the reason this tragedy was allowed to happen was because we took God out of our schools and government, and therefore God was not there. We removed him. He could not protect us. It's an insult to our goodness. It's an insult to our humanity. It's an insult to common sense and morality. Quite frankly, what he just asserted was America wasn't Christian enough, so God punished us. And his method for punishment was to allow the violent massacre of our most innocent. Even if that had been the case, one would have to ask, is this the kind of God I could pledge my life allegiance to? And the answer, of course, it must be no. Are we talking about religious stuff again? I guess it's just going to happen.
It's hard not. It's a peripheral thing, but it's hard to avoid it. But it touches on anything.
But I read a post by Meg about how there's a lot that I love about the United States, and I know everybody likes to throw stones at us, but there's a lot I love about this country, a tremendous amount that I do. But one of the things I think we have gotten wrong is we're lousy at focusing on identifying and understanding and treating mental illness. We don't really get it.
Yep.
And all of a sudden a tragedy like this happens, right? Someone has a mental breakdown. Someone does the unthinkable, right? And for 5 minutes, the country is now going to say, oh, geez, we should know more. But in 2 or 3 weeks, in a month, will we have moved on, or will we have tried to put together a plan to find real solutions to understand how does someone get to a point in their mind where their next action is to commit this kind of atrocity? How does someone get there, and how can it be sought out and stopped?
Yeah, absolutely. It can be studied. There's a chemistry that's going on, a real disorder that can be seen if we're willing to acknowledge there is such thing as mental disease. There was a TED Talk I heard several months ago about exactly that. The woman herself experienced some serious mental disease and got through it with help, and so she became a spokesman. But the whole TED Talk is about the fact that we have no problem when we talk about kidney disease. We have no problem when we talk about heart disease. Well, the brain is an organ, just like they are, and it can break.
And what environmental triggers are involved? And I mean, it's such a widely complex issue. I have one more thought on the issue. I don't want to spend the whole hour on the tragedy.
Okay.
I knew it might come up.
Yeah, sure.
But and this is also an unpopular thing to say, and it's not something I wish. It's not something I celebrate. But while we always should be vigilant to try to recognize, to perhaps stop or prevent or what have, in any kind of event like this, there have always been, and there will always be, those people in humanity who will snap and who will do the undoable, who will think the unthinkable, who will perpetrate the most heinous things that people will try to make sense of, and there won't be any sense to be made of it. I mean, every culture, every generation has had its monsters. And everybody always looks around and says, why? And they begin to point fingers. But the truth is, sometimes that mental computer will crash. Somebody does something because they mentally break down and go batshit. And while I said earlier, we have to do what we can to make our world a safer place, but let's not kid ourselves. The world will never really be safe. It just won't. It'd be nice, but I just don't think the world will ever really be safe, and we have to be vigilant.
Yep.
Thanks for the call, man. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for listening.
Talk to you again.
All right, take care.
Bye.
I had a message in from Evan. He said, Penn and Teller had a great episode of Bullshit, the TV show about creationism being taught in science class. Nova also ran a piece about Dover, Pennsylvania. Intelligent design on trial. Watching these are very scary, as I believe American education is heading downhill and in a hurry. If people graduate high school with little to no understanding of math and science and continue to hold superstitious ideas, doesn't this fly in the face of the progress for humankind? Will we ever be able to achieve the things we'd like if religion tries to stop it? This is a religion-based topic, but if you want to tackle it from the side of education, yeah, we got some challenges for sure. I'm excited though about I don't know. I see more and more young people excited about science, excited about learning. I think our institutions of learning are, in many cases, obsolete. I think we are in the age of information where people can find so much good material at the touch of a button, right? They can pull it up on their freaking smartphone. The methodology for research has changed. The methodology for learning is changing. And I would like to see education evolve beyond, hey, you're going to go and sit in a classroom for this many hours, and then we're going to have finals, and then you're going to have a term paper, and then you're going to have nightly homework, and then you're going to give an oral exam, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do that. And I think to myself, are models for educating young people obsolete now that so much more is available to us? I don't know how many times I will have needed information on how to do something, how to fix something. There's something broken in my house, or I don't understand how this concept works. And I go to YouTube or a service like it, and within 30 seconds, I can find a tutorial, an involved tutorial given by an expert or someone at least very knowledgeable who will not only tell me how it works, they'll freaking show me how it works. And then I can go and do it. I have just learned. And I'm excited now that the internet is blowing the doors off the old ways of doing things. There are people right now locked in religious schools, and they're going around the narrow confines of the theology being taught from the school, and they're finding real scientific answers online. And it's awesome. The internet's going to allow us and parents and students themselves to be able to take some more control over how much they learn and how quickly they can learn it. The mechanism for education is changing. I'm just not convinced it's changing fast enough. Area code 212. You're on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. Who's this?
Hi, Seth. My name is Jesse.
Hey, what's going on, Jesse?
Hey, so I saw your Facebook post earlier about the shooting, and
yeah.
I kind of I love your show, but I kind of disagreed with you on your point there. I think you're one of the
describe for my listeners the point that you disagree with.
I think, in a nutshell, it's just that you are one of the people that says don't blame the gun, and that tightening gun laws isn't really going to help.
I don't know that I said that. I'll read the post for our listeners.
Sure.
After our call is done, if you want me to go. It's a long post, so I don't want to waste your time with it.
It was a long post, yeah. But I would go the route, and I would say that if you look at the statistics in the other advanced countries, there are about 22 other countries in the world that are advanced, wealthy countries, and they all have significantly tighter gun laws than the United States, and they all have significantly less gun death than the United States. So wouldn't knowing that change your mind?
Well, it's not just that I am a legal, law-abiding gun owner. And it's not just that I'm more concerned about the intent to do harm than I am the tool in which harm is done. Let's look at it from a logistical point of view. If almost 50% of all American households have weapons in them, what mechanism do you propose to round those up? How are you going to magically get rid of the guns?
Well, you're certainly not going to get rid of all of them, but I think that you could implement laws to where people either had to sort of re-register them under much stricter laws, or some people may have to give them up. And again, you're not going to get all of them back, but if you get a significant portion back, I think that you can reduce gun deaths.
All right, well, let's stop right there. Hang on.
Yeah.
So if someone says, I'm going to now give up my guns voluntarily, you're expecting the vast majority of current legal gun owners to acquiesce and to go and take all of their weapons and turn them in. Do you think that the majority of gun owners are going to do that?
The majority, no, and I don't think it's a quick fix either. I think it will take a couple years until you eventually get a lot of them back.
What about those who either own guns that are illegal or are criminals? What do you think what's their reaction to whatever law is signed?
They certainly won't give it back, of course, because they're criminals. But I would like to address that point, because one thing that gun advocates say is, well, if you make guns illegal, criminals will get guns anyway. But I think if you look at a situation like James Holmes in the theater shooting or the recent shooting in Connecticut, those two guys weren't criminals. They were common people. And if you make guns illegal and a common person, or what I would call a would-be criminal, has to try and get a gun somehow, I think that it would become so impossible that they'd almost give up the task. And I use the comparison, like if I wanted to become a crack cocaine criminal, and I'm a common person, I'm not a criminal, where would I get crack cocaine from? I don't have a clue where to even start looking. It would take so much effort that I'd probably try and find another way to commit a crime. Like, for example, the person in China that had to use a knife that stabbed the 20 Chinese children, but none of them died. He probably couldn't get a gun, or else he would have used a gun, so he had to go to the next level down, a less effective method, which was a knife. And I think that criminals that have guns will be able to use them, but non-criminals really won't.
I realize that
a lot of crimes.
Everybody wants to stand upon the soapbox of this event to pitch their own perspectives and agendas. And I respect the people who say that they are against guns. I understand. What I don't believe is that, hey, I want to do coke, but wow, coke is illegal. I don't know how to get coke, is a monumentally naive way to look at it. Anybody who wants coke can find coke. Anybody who wants to do an illegal substance can find an illegal substance. If someone wants to do harm to someone else and they don't have a gun, trust me, humankind has been monumentally creative in finding ways to do their worst. And those instances and those psychopaths and those sociopaths they'll always exist in some form. And I don't believe that, I'm not a fan of assault weapons. I don't know why a civilian would have to ever own one of those. But if you look at the number of people who are legal, licensed, law-abiding, good, responsible gun owners in this country, if the gun was really the problem, this whole place would just be a big, you couldn't even see from the haze of smoke. I'm more interested in what dropped this kid over the edge. What happened that caused this person to snap? What created the intent to do harm?
Well,
and
no
even
doubt
if you
mental health is an issue as well. I wouldn't say it's only the gun that's the issue. No doubt something like mental health or anger issues or whatever is an issue as well. But my thought is that this is going to happen to people, and it happens to people worldwide. But in other countries, when these people snap, like you said, they can't get guns as easily to commit these crimes as well. I just think you have to take away the possibility for them to have a trigger so that when they snap, they can't find that trigger.
That 800-pound gorilla is out of its cage, man. I mean, if you had been talking about a nation that was not already armed to the teeth, you might be able to get the guns. Now you are looking at civil war. You are looking at a search of every individual private home in a nation that is by the people and for the people, right? Now you're going to end up, what are you going to send the ATF into everybody's home and do a search? You're going to search every room. You're going to check in between the sheetrock to see if they have hidden stockpiles. You're going to be in the attic. You're talking about the logistics of making sure that everyone has no gun. Well, that's just a fantasy. It's never going to happen.
I think you make a good point, Seth, that it may potentially be too late for America, that too many guns are out there, 250 million guns or whatever it is approximately. I think that tightening gun laws so that new people can't get guns will still, the goal is to minimize gun deaths as much as you can. That's really the question. What's the best way to minimize gun deaths? And I would again say if you look at other countries, I think that they're a good model to go by, but you make some good points. So
Look, just because,
the response.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I honestly, I understand that I believe in responsible gun ownership. I believe that you should be licensed and on record. I believe that you should training should be required. There is a tremendous amount of respect that comes, and anyone in the gun culture that in fact, everybody I know, which is a great many people, they all treat gun ownership, whether they shoot for recreation or they have a weapon for home protection or what have you, they treat it with a tremendous amount of respect. It is not a negative force in their lives. A politician's signature is not going to solve this problem.
Can I ask you one other question on a different topic that I've always wondered about you?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I've listened to most of your shows, not all of them, so it's possible you spoke to this topic and I didn't hear it, but a lot of atheist shows talk about this as well, but what is your opinion? Do you think that Jesus ever existed?
Bart Ehrman has, we're talking religion. You know what? I'm just going to go with it. Bart Ehrman,
sorry.
I'm reading 2 Bart Ehrman books at the moment. One's called Misquoting Jesus, and the other one's called Jesus Interrupted. And he takes the side, at least so far as where I am in both books, that Jesus was a guy. He actually existed. He was out there, and he was just this guy, and he sort of took off as myth after his physical death as a man. But at the same time, I see other research that says that there was no city even named Nazareth at the time that Jesus supposedly existed. So if there was no Nazareth, how could Jesus of Nazareth have ever taken place? I myself, I don't know if it's knowable. The larger question is this: if Jesus Christ existed, we know he wasn't God. Do I believe in the God-man, Jesus Christ? Absolutely not. Do you have an opinion on it?
I do. Well, I would say, I've heard Matt Dillahunty speak about this also, and he said something similar to you, that it really isn't that important a question. I guess I kind of disagree with that, because it's really the foundation for Christianity. If you don't believe that Jesus ever existed or don't have good evidence to think he existed, how could you believe an entire religion based upon that, and implement laws around what he supposedly said or whatnot? But I've actually studied this subject quite a lot, and there's an article by a guy named Jim Walker called "Did a Historical Jesus Exist?" that I thought was just a great article and really opened up my eyes. And I just look at it, and also that movie, The God Who Wasn't There, which is free on YouTube for an hour. Everybody should watch it if you haven't already. And I just think that the more I look at it, I just can't find any reason to believe that Jesus did exist. I think the first writing about him was by Paul, but Paul only claimed to have met him in spirit on that, was it the road to Damascus, is that right? And never knew anything about Jesus. Paul never said anything about Jesus' history, about being born of a virgin and, the 3 kings and being executed or rising again. And it seems like the first thing written about Jesus was somebody met him in spirit. And it was also this was, a couple decades after his supposed death. And then you factor in also that the Jesus story seems to be copied from other past heroes, people like Hercules and, and other past gods with similar stories. I just don't see a reason to believe why people would think he ever existed.
If you can't even tell who wrote the chronicles of his life, right? It's unverifiable, written often hundreds of years after the fact, and those accounts conflict each other. They must be dismissed. Maybe you can get some hints of the culture, and there are tidbits of information in there, but it is not the divine, inerrant, inspired, perfect word of God. I can guarantee you that.
Just one more quick point on that. If this person existed, there was not one contemporary that wrote a single word about him. If this guy did all these miraculous things, why would not one person write a single word during the time he was alive or within 20 or 30 years of his death? It just doesn't seem to make sense to me. But thanks for your time.
All right, thanks, man. Take care of yourself.
All right, bye.
Let's see here. In our news culture, sometimes I asked the question a while back. I'm like, has the world just gotten crazier, or is it just because we have a 24-hour news cycle where news stations desperate for ratings are posting the most inflammatory, the most ratings-worthy things that happen all around the world. I mean, you think about it, if it happens anywhere, on any street, in any home, in any place, at any time, there are people there, right there, to document it on possibly high-definition video with their cell phones, right? And those immediately get uploaded to the internet, and they go viral, and people know about them immediately. And, you know, a long time ago, not even a long time ago, when something would happen, most people would never even know about it. You know, if there was some crazy headline, and I'm not talking about Connecticut. Obviously, the world would know about that. I'm talking about just the day-to-day stuff that you and I see. There's so much bad. There's so much that hurts my heart. There's so much that I think, God, I stop the planet. I want to get off. I have always had animals in my life, right? I love my animals. They're my family. I read an article about some kids in a park in Sacramento. They doused a cat with lighter fluid and lit it, and the cat was running obviously through the park, screaming in pain. Had to be put down. And you know, and you think again, you're back to how does someone mentally get to a place where they can do something like that? How could someone even consider it? How is it possible? You know, and all the sexual abuse of children, people kidnapped for decades. I saw a show on TV where the guy actually made her sleep in some box under his bed. He actually lifted the bed up and she had to sleep in this sort of dark, black, constrained space. Everywhere we look, slashings and stabbings and hangings and mothers drowning their kids and people blowing up buildings with fertilizer bombs, and it's cannibalism. I mean, Jesus. And you just look at the headlines and you say, God, has the world just gotten crazier, or is it just that now I just know about it? We know there's always been man's inhumanity to man. We know that since the origins of humankind, there have been the best and the worst case scenarios. There have been the best of intentions and the worst of intentions, the best of actions, the worst of actions. This is not new. There have always been the torturers and the creators of pain and all those. Is it worse today, or is it just because I get it real time on my cell phone? And do you ever want to just delete, just not log in, just not look, not turn the television on every day, day after day after day? And then you add to that the fact that we live in a culture that knows a hell of a lot more about Kim Kardashian and the cast of Jersey Shore than they know about the real world and the real issues that we fight every single day. They can't name the vice president, but they can name everybody on this television show. Makes me crazy. And the news outlets are guilty. They know what sells. They're trying to get better ratings than all the other news outlets. And so they find the most inflammatory, the most ratings-worthy stuff, and they act compassionate as it happens. It's like everything's a hot button. Everything's designed to inflame. And I don't want to be so desensitized to it that I stop caring. It's a weird phenomenon, isn't it, living in 2013? The very information age that I said I was celebrating with in terms of education has a dark side. It's not always going to be good. There's a dark side to it. Josh on Skype, you're on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. Thanks for waiting. What's going on?
Hello, Zeth. How are you?
I'm doing well. Now, your connection's a little choppy on my end. I hope the listeners can hear you okay. What's going on, my friend?
Oh, it's Josh from Australia, mate. How are you?
It is my pleasure to hear your voice, my friend.
It's good to talk to you, mate. Finally.
For those who don't know, Josh has been a listener for I don't know how long.
Since the start, probably.
Yeah, for a long time. And he'll send me correspondence from time to time. And I think you were planning a trip to the United States in 2013. And so we've kind of thrown some messages back and forth. But I'm glad to hear your voice, my friend. I'm glad you're calling. What's on your mind today?
Oh, not a lot, mate. I'm on a day off now. I've finished my night shift and I'm having a few beers and relaxing. I just wanted to ring up and say good day and wish you Merry Christmas.
Is it true that everything in Australia can kill you? Look, I mean, you guys have it all. You got the box jellyfish, and you have Is it what's the snake? You guys, I don't know how many reptile, everything down there that I always see these shows and like, yeah, that'll kill you. I'm like, oh my god.
No, I think we've got the top 10 deadliest animals in the world or something, or most poisonous.
Can you educate me a little bit about your country? All I know about Australia is what I see on television, and it's obviously it's much of it is stunningly beautiful country. It seems to us sort of the untapped wilderness out there, and
we're still a young country. We're just over 200 years old. We're very multicultural. We were originally English, and we obviously were first colonised by the convict population. So we're sort of a bit proud of that, being the anti-hero type thing, the larrikin, the petty criminal element. So we don't take ourselves too seriously down here. Everyone seems to think that we're laid back and quite friendly, and we as a population we like to laugh at ourselves and everyone else, or as we like to call it, taking the piss out of everyone.
And people really say g'day down there? It's not just something you tell the tourists?
No, g'day, mate. No, everyone says g'day. How you going, mate?
How much of that land is untamed? I mean, I know you're talking about this. I always see these long, large vistas of untamed wild.
That's true. The majority of the population, and I'm just going off the top of my head, I would have to say at least 80% of the population lives within 50 to 100 kilometres of the coastline. The middle of Australia is desert. It's quite desolate. And we do, we've got our little towns and smaller cities out towards the inner part of Australia. But there's a Sitton desert. There's the middle of Australia is quite arid and hostile. Your smaller towns are only 50, 60 people if you're lucky. The majority of the population lives only within a couple of hours of the coastline.
Well, one of my dreams is to come to Australia, and not just for the Global Atheist Convention, which they have in Melbourne. But I'm a tennis fan. I'm a tennis player. I'd love to go and be. I'd love to see the Australian Open live as it happens. And I've always. It's one of the places in the world I've always wanted to travel. My friend, I'm looking forward to hopefully getting a chance to shake your hand when you come up to the States here in 2013.
Yeah, be there, mate, hopefully in September. Hopefully we can catch up, mate.
Thanks so much for the call. It was really a pleasure to talk to you, man. Take care, Josh.
You take care too, Seth.
All right, bye.
See you, mate.
I'm more of a settler, not a pioneer. I mean, I've done my travel. I've spent my time on an airplane. A lot as a professional videographer. Almost all of our shoots for many, many years were at remote locations. Trust me, is it every week, every weekend. And I've come to the point now where, when I selected this home and we bought this home and sort of put this home together, it was a soft place to land, a place where you can go and just, and it's rare that I really want to bust out of here and go. But Australia is one of those places I've always thought, man, if I could go somewhere, I think it would be amazing. David on Skype, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. What's going on?
Hey, Seth. If I can change the topic completely, I think you're right about Google+.
Oh, really? Well, I took a lot of heat. Was it last show or the show before where I said that I have a Google+ account, but I never use it because I hate Google+. And, of course, I received hate and death in my email inbox from people who believed I'd missed the button. And it's very possible I have. It's possible I blew it, and I just need to give it a chance. But you think I'm on track?
It's actually surprising to hear that. See, I had the opposite reaction. I wanted to like Google+ because I absolutely hate Facebook, but no one seems to be using it. The people who are using Google+ are highly technical people, like Linus Torvalds wrote the Linux operating system. He uses it to blog on, things like that. But just another kind of completely off-the-wall thing. I think I've occasionally hear you have a sort of really entertaining way of being angry at things. Just things drive you crazy. And I just want to reassure you, I'm a programmer. I've been a professional programmer going back to school to get my degree. Things drive me crazy also, all the time. All this amazing technology that we have, it seems to go wrong every chance it gets, and it is all our fault, and I'm sorry for that.
I feel like sometimes when I go off on a tangent, I always think, have I lost everybody? Does anybody care? Is everybody waiting for me just to shut my mouth so we can move on? But then I'll get a message from people who go, oh yeah, we love it when you go off on it. We love it when you get crazy. I did a show, I forgot what it was called. It must have been 9 months ago. And I was in the wrong frame of mind when I hosted the show. I just come off kind of a bad episode with some religious people, and I was all teed up. And the first 45 minutes was me just unloading. And I thought after that show, I blew it. I sort of toxified my own show. And then I got this outpouring of support from people who it was like cathartic for them because they were feeling the same frustrations that I felt. And when they heard me articulate it, they were like, yeah, go get him, Seth. You tell the man, you stick it to the man. So hey, if it works for him, I'm glad it did.
Sometimes it just helps to hear someone else say what you've been thinking.
Yeah. Well, I'm just one guy and who goes off and I just do what I do. I kind of have an excess of personality sometimes, but as long as people enjoy listening and hopefully it'll be entertaining and occasionally informative, I'll keep doing it, David. Anything else before I move on?
I had some thoughts about the shooting, but really my reaction to that has just been enough already. Stop trying to push agendas, mourn for a little bit and move on.
Everybody seems to be shouting. And no one's listening. That's a challenge. I myself, I don't know how one recovers from something like this other than time will maybe mute those nerves a little bit. But every word that you say of comfort just seems to fall completely flat. I mean, what can you say? How do you approach it?
I mean, for my part, I feel kind of numb because I don't know any of those people. I don't know their families. I have no idea what they're going through. It's tragic, but in a way I'm really detached from all that. The one thing that does hit home is when we all start talking about mental health. Someone close to me had a psychotic breakdown, and I mean the whole thing, hearing voices, the voices are telling him to kill, just all kinds of anything that visual, auditory hallucinations, anything you can think of when a person literally goes crazy. This guy went through that. And because we were lucky enough to be in the right part of the country where we're near one of the best mental institutions in the country, we took him over there, and it was a matter of a couple days in there and a few months on medication, and now he's completely off the medication, and he's fine. He's fully recovered.
Wow.
And that's...
So the point is, it's not necessarily a lost cause. I mean, the more we understand it, the more we can treat it, huh?
Yeah, definitely. And that's a conversation I think we really need to hear. If you... J.T. Eberhard gave a talk at Skepticon about this that I thought was just an excellent talk if you haven't seen that. But similar kinds of themes. One thing is you need to recognize when there's something wrong with you or someone close to you that's chemical, and that you can actually get chemicals to fix. It's not that there's something wrong with the way you're built. It's that there's that you're sick. You're sick, and you can get better.
It's funny how who was I talking to? Was it Dr. Darrell Ray? I'm drawing a blank, but we were talking about how so often there are even chemical reasons. It used to be, you're just lazy, or there's some kind of behavioral thing that it has nothing to do with brain chemistry. And, it's even how they used to treat depression. Oh, come on, you have so much to be happy about. That's how they would treat depression. Oh, yeah, got nothing to be depressed about. And then they realized that there's an imbalance of chemical certain chemicals in the brain that cause people who have everything going for them to feel flu-like and sad and depressed all the time. And they found a solution for that by rebalancing the brain. They actually sort of gave these people a new lease on life, where before they would have called them everything from just lazy to demon-possessed. And I think when it comes to the issues of mental health, we certainly have a long way to go. But it's encouraging now that we're starting to expand our horizons.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing we have to do now, I think, is awareness, because I think a ton of people who are actually clinically depressed try to treat it the same way you described. They're just like, well, I have so much to happy about, so I'll just feel happy.
Yeah.
Why isn't this working?
Well, I feel the same way about many eating disorders. You know, it used to be, it was like, oh, you're anorexic, go eat something. You know, we just throw that out, right? And of course, we hadn't even begun to understand what's happening in the mind that triggers anorexic behavior. There's something else going on. And the understanding of that allowed us to come up with better solutions, real solutions, helpful solutions. And I you know, it's something I'll be curious to watch here, and I sure would like to see more focus on it here in the States. David, thanks for your call, my friend, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas, okay?
Yeah, happy holidays to you too, Seth.
All right, take care. I'm not going to read that full blog post on my page. It's too long, and we've got 20 minutes left on the show, and maybe I'll just finish it here. I'll just read you the last portion of it. We tend to be a symptom-based society. We are eager to blame society for the actions of our worst individuals. It's our fault as a society. And I myself reject that. I am convinced that those who operate outside the boundaries of the law will be completely unaffected by said law, and their world essentially will not change, and quite frankly, the black market is going to thrive. So then you've disarmed the law-abiding. I mean, you got people using all manner of instruments to do all manner of damage. I think we have to start with the individual. And I took the people who are just blaming the gun and no one else, and that's really who I'm going after. I'm not saying that the guns shouldn't be part of the discussion, but I said, you know, these people want a kumbaya planet where good intentions trump all, a world without aggressors and those who defend against them, a world where a politician's signature on a piece of paper will cure all hearts of darkness, a world where ribbons on our lapels actually solve planet-wide problems. A world where humanity can go to sleep at night with unlocked doors and unconcerned minds. It's a beautiful fantasy and a ridiculous one. We can and should find ways to make our world safer, but it will never be safe. I own a Smith & Wesson MP9 pistol. I've been trained to use it and often target shoot for recreation. I keep the weapon secured. It's treated with a healthy respect, readily accessible for reasons of home defense. Some people are skittish about the use of deadly force to protect loved ones. I am not. This does not make me a warmonger or a nut, a conspiracy theorist or agent of bloodlust. It makes me a free, law-abiding citizen who happens to take the first line of responsibility for the protection of his family. Individual responsibility within the law. It's how I roll. And there are millions like me. Ask yourself, are we really the problem? And will disarming us prevent the next tragic headline? I think absolutely not. I don't expect agreement on this one. It's such a polarizing issue, and everybody's pissed off at me. You should see the correspondence I get from people. They're like, how could you, Seth? By the way, he brought up Google+. I'm going to get back to social media real quick. He brought up Google+. I haven't totally written it off. I'm looking back into it after our last show just to see. I don't find it intuitive at all, and I have a hard enough time keeping up with Facebook and Twitter. But there was a headline came out today that you might be interested in if you use Instagram, which is now used by Facebook. Facebook bought them, right? Instagram has just signed a deal so that they have the right to sell Instagram photos without telling you and without paying you a dime. So let's say, and it's not people who are, I'm not worried about people who are taking pictures of their Christmas tree or their dinner. You know, that's not, whatever. But what this law does is, let's say you got a teenage girl, right? We do in the house, who's posting pictures of her and her friends on Facebook. This law allows that to become immediately public domain, which means as of January 16th, Instagram could sell that photo to another organization who could then use it for advertising purposes, meaning it's feasible. You could be driving down the street, see a billboard with your daughter's face on it. You never got a penny. You never knew it was happening, and you certainly don't know that you endorsed whatever product it was. You could take vacation with your family at a very nice resort. You're going down to whatever, Atlantis or Sandals or whatnot. And you've got some amazing photos from that event. You put them on Instagram. They go live. Somebody decides they want to promote that resort. They like your photos without paying you or notifying you. They can take them, buy them from Instagram, and use them at their discretion. And unless you stumble upon them by accident, you'll never know the difference. I'm totally against this. And, you know, I've used a lot of stock type photography in the work that I do because I'm a video producer. We go to iStock Photo, and there are some other organizations where you licensed these graphics for the purposes of storytelling and promotion, right? And these people are paid royalties for the product they provide. Everyone knows how and where it's being used. Everybody's above board. This is, hey, I put it on Facebook 3 years ago, and now it's being used to sell whatever, wherever, however, and I have no control over it. My face is out there. My children's faces are out there. My pets' faces are out there. And there's no way to opt out of it, by the way. Instagram, there's no way. If your photos are up as of January 16th, those photos are immediately fair game. Anyway, it's something you should definitely look into. I'm normally not much of a conspiracy theorist about this stuff, and I normally don't have a lot of sympathy for people who put something on the internet and then get surprised when it goes viral. You know that picture of my cat sitting over the Thanksgiving turkey? I put it up I think I put it up Thanksgiving Day. I got this. His name is Cat. He's a Persian. And we had the turkey sitting out on the kitchen counter. The cat jumps up and he's looking at it. And I happen to have my camera handy. And I took a perfectly timed photo where the cat licks his lips right there in front of the turkey. Got that photo. And it's awesome. It's the kind of thing photographers live for. Well, I stuck it up on my Facebook page. And I said, hey, check out this shot I got. It's awesome. And everybody responded. 2 days later, I saw it I think it was on break.com. Somebody else somebody I didn't know had taken it and put it online. It had like tens and tens of thousands of views. That kind of stuff doesn't bother me. And it is what it is, you know. But the minute all control is released, that to me is something that I think we should be a little bit concerned about. And Facebook they have a history of making just some dumbass choices. Just some dumb choices. Sometimes I just want to shake these people and say, all right, quit screwing up your interface. Quit jacking with my privacy settings. You know what I'm saying? Everybody just chill up there. Area code 712. You're on the Thinking Atheist Radio podcast. Thanks for waiting. Who's this? Joey, appreciate your patience on hold. What do you think about all this?
Oh, well, I've been a fan of your show since, I think, May now. Mm-hmm. Been an atheist since March. And, yeah, I'm actually still in the closet about that with my family.
Well, I get that. And, you know, if I may, don't let anybody push you out. You come out on your timing when it's right for you, okay?
Of course. Right. I've got a couple friends who are atheists. That really helps. What's on your mind today? It's sort of an everything but atheism is supposedly what we're talking about today. What do you think? Do you remember a couple months ago, I guess it was now, where you had 100,000 subs on YouTube? Yeah, we actually, it's funny, in the last 6 months, we hit 100,000 subs on YouTube and on the Facebook page. It's been a very good year. I'm the same Joey who got the screenshot of YouTube. A few folks grabbed it, and I went ahead and reposted it online, and it's something I'm going to keep for a long time. What a milestone, you know. If you'd have told me in May of 2009 when I started all this stuff that we'd ever hit 100,000 anything, I would have thought, you're nuts. You're crazy. But the fact that people are out there and enjoying and listening and participating, and even when we disagree, the fact that we're all able to come together and enjoy each other means a tremendous amount to me. I'm so glad you listen and enjoy the page. Hope you have a wonderful Christmas and a great New Year, my friend, okay? Thank you. You too, sir. All right, take care. Area code 801. You're on the Thinking Atheist Radio podcast. Who's this?
This is Adam, sir. Thanks for letting me listen.
Hey, I appreciate you, man.
Okay.
What do you have for me?
Well, listen, okay, so I got a couple real quick topics, okay? I think Instagram's bull, I mean, it's crap. Facebook's going to get sued. Somebody's going to not read the license agreement, and it's going to be an end-user license agreement lawsuit with the millions of people against Facebook, and they'll pull back on it. I have faith in that.
It does seem like a recipe for disaster, doesn't it? It seems like something's going to, if nothing else, the public relations aspect of it alone is going to bite them in the ass.
Nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, nightmare. I mean, you got millions and millions and millions of 13 and over people out there posting pictures, and all of a sudden Facebook has got public domain rights to it. No, not a chance. They'll get sued.
Yeah.
They'll get sued big time. Okay, so that's Facebook. Google Plus. I started up with Google Plus right when they released. I had Google Voice, Google Wave. I'm a technical phobe, I'm a techie type guy. And here's the thing: they need to take the guys who are doing Google Maps and put them on Google Plus for like 6 months and let them improve the interface because Google Maps is phenomenal. I love the interface. Everybody loves it. So take the guys over there, put them on Google Plus, and I think they'd have a product. However, if they don't do that, Google Plus is a bunch of crap.
I have heard that Google has a real good, it's not really Skype, but it's kind of a video group or video room option that's supposed to be quite good. So. Yeah. I mean, but here again, I mean, unlike iChat with the Mac or like Facebook's got their video chatting too. I mean, Google Plus is everybody signed up with Gmail, and I think that's for the wave they're riding now. It's like, oh my God, we got 600 billion people on Gmail. We'll do all these other cool things too, and it's like nobody's like, no, we don't like it. They had a great idea and they had good kind of ambitions, but I think they just implemented it wrong. Okay, so my last question to you, and it's an easy one, to be what's your favorite movie? Are you a movie buff like me?
I am. Pulp Fiction's my favorite flick. Yep.
If I had to pick any, there's no contest. It is The Godfather. I was in college, right? I'd never seen this is an atrocity. I'd never seen The Godfather, and it was a film class or something. It was like a journalism or media class, and they brought in The Godfather, and I remember sitting there. I was glued. Yeah. And ever since then, I can almost quote the film to you. They showed it. AMC brought it back to the theater and showed it on the big screen last year. And nobody else was around. Everybody else was out of town. I drove myself to the AMC, got popcorn, sat there, and watched The Godfather for like the 100th time in the theater.
Nice. Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Hey, well, thanks a lot. Hey, have a good night, and go take some other calls. I just wanted to chat for a little bit, and we'll talk to you next week.
Take care. Thanks, man. I've got a Philip on the Skype line here. Philip, thanks for waiting. I think I've got you. What's going on?
I'm all right. How about you, mate?
I'm well. Another Australian?
Yeah, that's right.
Love it. What do you think?
Yeah. I wanted to ask you one thing, being a redneck, you are. What is your opinion on NASCAR?
I don't follow it. I don't get it. Yeah. I actually read an article. Was it an article or it was some sort of a long-form written piece about what NASCAR drivers, stock car drivers, have to know and do, and the skill level required to drive NASCAR. And it's crazy. I mean, you think, hell, they're just driving fast. It's crazy skill. I myself can't watch it. It's like everybody's turning left for how many hours? I don't get it. I don't understand. How about you?
I'm a big motorsport fan, and they are incredibly difficult cars to drive because they got lots of power and no grip. So yeah. But I'm mainly into Formula One and that sort of stuff because I'm into the very pinnacle level of engineering, that sort of stuff. And there was one other thing I wanted to. You talked to Josh earlier about the Australian dangerous animals, and that's kind of my niche when it comes to biology. So I just wanted to say there's a bird here that we have called the cassowary, which is regarded as the most dangerous bird in the world, and it's known for disemboweling people. It's got a very interesting technique. It's got a leg which is kind of like our leg with the knee, but it's the other way around, so they can bend their knee forward rather than back like us. So, and essentially they can do it very quickly, and they have 3 incredibly sharp claws. You get hit by them, you're dead. They're also incredibly aggressive. Zookeepers and all that sort of stuff, when they have to go into the kens, they actually have to go in with full riot gear and riot shields and rakes and batons to protect themselves, essentially. And they're also very smart when it comes to flanking and that sort of stuff.
So, how do you leave your house?
Well, I'm lucky. I live down in Sydney, which is like, and the cassowaries are all up on the northern coast with the crocodiles and the jellyfish. So I have to deal with a lot of spiders and snakes where I live around, which I don't mind. I love dangerous animals, especially funnel webs. I don't know why my parents won't let me own one as a pet. They're easy to handle.
Wow.
But no, I'm a bit of a nutter. But,
no, not at all. Honestly, I'm fascinated by it. I really am, and it's. It's funny every time I see, Sir David Attenborough and, going down there, I always think, wow, what an amazing place. And, but I would definitely want to take a native with me who knew where to go, what to touch, what not to touch, that kind of thing. So
I could do that for you, mate.
Yeah. Well, don't you guys have is it true that you guys have an atheist prime minister down there?
Well, our prime minister is a bit of I don't really get her. She's an atheist by definition. She doesn't believe in God, but she's said that she's quite respectful of people's beliefs and all that sort of stuff. But she has spoken very recently, in fact, that she's against the notion of marriage equality for, gay marriage and bisexuals and transgenders and all that sort of stuff. She's against it.
On what basis? If it's not a spiritual basis, what does she base that on?
I really don't have a fucking clue, mate. Sorry for the language.
Of course, you must look at our political system and think we're out of control over here in the United States. So,
yeah, I look at it's weird because I know more about the American political system than I do my own, which is not good.
Well.
But it's okay. You guys, all right. You got a fun sort of system. I probably wouldn't rate it as good as ours, but it's interesting to watch nonetheless. And I'll just leave you with this last thing. Mm-hmm. Your guy Josh earlier said you asked him what it's like over here. The last thing that we really, really do love over here, we love beer and we love cricket.
Oh, you guys are cricket. Now, don't cricket games go on like all day? Aren't they hugely long and laborious?
Well, there's a few forms of cricket. There's Test match, which is all day for 5 days straight.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it's endurance, mate.
God!
And then there's one dayers, which is 50 overs, and an over is 6 balls. So 300 balls each inning. You just go on Wikipedia if you want to learn about it. But yeah, we love cricket. We love beer. That's about it.
Well, I mentioned I can get educated about cricket by going online and I can get the rules. I can watch it played. I can get instruction. That's exactly what I'm going to do, Philip. Thanks for the call. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
All right, you too. Take care.
Bye.
I used to get made fun of because I used to watch golf. And I was like, oh, this is riveting. Look, it's Phil Mickelson. It's Phil. He's my guy. And everybody in the room is like, I don't do baseball. I watch one football game a year. It's the Super Bowl. I watch a little golf and a lot of tennis. I watch tennis as often as I can. I just don't follow a lot of sports. And he mentioned NASCAR. NASCAR is huge. Here in the Southwest, the Midwest, especially in the South, it's huge, and it takes a tremendous amount of skill to do it. I don't get it. Watching everyone drive for 5 hours is not my idea of compelling television. 347, you're on the Thinking Atheist Radio podcast. Who's this?
Hey, it's Stephanie. Hi.
Stephanie, glad you called. And as we approach the new year, we're talking about whatever. What do you think?
Well, I was actually very entertained when you mentioned the Instagram thing.
Yeah.
Because not too long ago, I saw a post that was made on Facebook. If you want, I can read it to you.
Yeah, please do.
It goes, Instagram can now sell your photos. Now, before you go all nuts, posting long-winded status updates about privacy or completely useless and inaccurate intellectual property law, I would like to remind you of one thing. Nobody's buying your Instagram photos. They suck.
I had one guy on Facebook saying, who's going to be buying pictures of your dinner? Because I guess that's mostly, I don't really do Instagram. I know the kids do, though. And that's the part that bothers me, is if the kids are putting their faces everywhere. I sure don't want my kid's face on a, selling, so who knows what, who knows where, for who knows who.
Oh, God.
So.
Yeah, especially if it's like a teenager. But Instagram, I think, was originally mostly photos of your food.
Yeah.
Which I didn't get.
Do you do Pinterest? Because everybody around here is talking Pinterest.
No, I haven't looked at it either. I do Tumblr.
Is Tumblr mostly a blog site?
Tumblr is kind of like Twitter and Facebook combined. Like, you have like this one post that you can make, and You can put a picture. You can just put text. So like there's like this sort of Facebook interface, but not really. It's you have to see it to understand better what I'm trying to say.
I'll go check it out. I mean, it's not like I need one more social media ball in the air to juggle, but I might go check Tumblr out for sure. Anything else?
Yeah. No, I just thought that was really funny because I was like, oh, you mentioned it and how it's scary, but most things that people upload on the internet, the pictures are kind of crappy.
They're pretty lousy.
You could sell something with.
I guess I'll go to Instagram and go check it out. Thanks for the call.
I mean, that cat one was great.
Did you like my cat photo?
Yeah, it was perfect.
Well, I'm glad you liked it, and Kat appreciates it too. You have a great one, okay?
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. I guess we will call it a night. We had some heavy topics, some light topics. Honestly, I kind of wish I'd scheduled an extra half an hour in for the show. Everybody just wants to just chill and shoot the breeze. It's nice to be able to do that with friends, and you are definitely that to me. I'm so glad for your friendship, your support, your participation in the Thinking Atheist for 2012. This is the last official podcast of the year. If I get a wild hair, we might do like one at an off time, but the next 2 Tuesday nights are the holidays, Christmas and New Year's, and of course we'll all be doing our thing. So I will catch you in 2013. You can find us on Blog Talk Radio. You can subscribe on iTunes, and of course I'll get these posted to YouTube as well. If I don't talk to you, have a wonderful Christmas, a happy New Year, and thanks again for listening to the Thinking Atheist radio podcast.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter. Watch dozens of original videos on the Thinking Atheist YouTube channel. And visit our website for resources, links, contact information, the editor's blog, and more. thethinkingatheist.com.